ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between. Welcome back to another episode of Books and Buds, where we discuss two of the greatest things on planet Earth, books and buds. Today we're discussing this wonderful collection of short stories put out by my friends Denise Shepard and Jensen Reed. They're both authors, but they're also editors and publishers, and their publishing company is called Pixie Forest Publishing. Now, I bought a copy of the book because I've submitted to them before. They didn't accept me, but I've published with both women, and I've even edited with author Jensen Reed before. Her and I exchanged edits on short stories. Neither one of our short stories were accepted for that particular collection that we were submitting them to, but whatever. It was still nice to connect with her, and it was still nice to get an idea of her writing style. And we both published together in other anthologies, so I want to do these girls a solid, and I enjoyed the book, so I want to do them a solid. But first, I've been telling you guys for weeks that we've been doubling our production. The girls finally finished, and I want to give you a quick tour of the cure rooms. Hang tight. Hey folks, so this is probably going to be one of our last runs hanging in this tent because we have expanded so much that this can't hold it all anymore. This will be the last run that we can actually hold it all in here. So as you can see, these top several lines and these middle lines are all the Dr. Free. So these bottom lines down here and the back wall over here, that's our Jelly Bean. Alright, so we got a few strains in this one. But once again, everyone seems to really love the Sour Diesel. So this entire wall back here, this entire wall, and this entire middle wall over here is all the Sour Diesel. So you'll be seeing a little more of these in each of my book review videos because, again, we're expanding like crazy, and we're just trying to show you guys what we do here at Burning Bush. So thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll be right back with the book review of the week. Everybody, so that last tenth I just showed you was only a quarter of it, so we really did double our production. We're a bit crazy here. So we did a third room, and it's a lot bigger. It's only 12 by 12, but the other rooms are 9 by 9. So it's 12 by 12. We're going to put 24 plants in, which we did. And we discovered we have room for the last 6 plants that we're legally allowed to grow. So as we continue here at Burning Bush, it will get bigger. But anyways, yeah, check it out. This is the next tent. So we had to add a whole bunch of lines compared to the other tent. This is just a 4 by 8 tent. That's what we use for our drying tents. There's just room in here to stand. But as you can see, we got our new ones. We got the Sour Diesel over here and the Dr. Freeze over here. You know, there's some Sour Diesels right there. So we still grow the classics that everybody loves. But these new chocolate ties over here, this entire wall is chocolate tie, and that bottom one. Some more Dr. Freeze in the back wall over here. We have some Super Silver Haze. That's this entire wall. And we also have some Blue Dreams right up here at the top. And not to mention, they finished a week early, so they're not in here. But we also had several lines that we already knocked down. I'll show them to you a little later of the Sugar Black Rose. So we doubled our production. That's why you haven't been seeing many videos from me lately, because it's been hectic. All right, I'll talk to you in the studio in a second. We'll get to today's book. Two, I guess. As I was getting ready to do this book review for At Death's Door, released by Pixie Forest Publishing, and the guy with the tank just pulled in. So, like I said, we just got a big propane tank put in here. We're getting a huge $27,000 generator put in. We are growing. You like the fun on that? Growing. Anyways, let's try this again. So, At Death's Door, it was released by Pixie Forest Publishing. And the two women that put together Pixie Forest Publishing are my buddies, Denise Shepard and Jensen Reed. Now, I've published with both these ladies before, and I've actually edited one of Jensen Reed's stories, and she edited one of mine. We swapped stories that we were preparing for an anthology. We both got rejected for the anthology, but it was really nice getting to know her through her work. She's a wonderful person, and so was her partner, Denise. And they both show that their character of person in their writing. They write very fun, lighthearted stories. And even in this book, they wrote some lighthearted stories, considering the title, At Death's Door. All right, without further ado, let's just jump right into it here. So I decided that I wanted to write down the stories that stood out to me. There was 3 of them that really stood out. The first one was was Jay the Bird. Now, it was the very first story, and these ladies were very smart to make it the first story because it was sweet. It was very sweet, but sad, bittersweet. Had a sad ending. The whole story was sad, but at the very ending, it was just wrapped up nicely where you at least felt good about it. A little boy died, so surrounded by family and loved ones, and they had all been dealing with this for some time, so they were able to accept it. And as the boy was fading out, some other people that had passed on before him, people that knew his family, were there to greet him, and he was just surrounded, both one foot in this world, one foot in the next, surrounded on all sides by people who loved him. It was a gorgeous story. So, Jay the Bird, that was by Elizabeth Royer, and I thought Elizabeth Royer did a fantastic job. Again, very smart to make it the first story. The next story that stood out was The Playroom. Now, you might be seeing a little bit of a trend here, because The Playroom was also involved the child main character. With children involved in these stories, it's very tragic, and it tugs my heartstrings a certain way. So I was considering that when I realized how much I enjoyed this story. So, The Playroom by Emily Fluke, this little child that was in a playroom in a hospital for hospice children. It's where they found their his best friend, and unfortunately, it's got a tragic ending. But again, it was very bittersweet. It was very bittersweet because the innocence of children just makes you see the world in a different way. So to have a story, one of these two stories written through the eyes of a child, really just made it a wonderful book, because there's a couple horror stories in here. There was one I'd call like a science fiction fantasy story. For the most part, though, it was just bittersweet fiction. The third story that stood out for me was called For Millie, written by Alan Ianson. Or Ianson. I apologize, Alan, if I pronounced your last name wrong. Anyways, this involved a car crash. So this one was far different than the first two that I had mentioned. There's no children in it. There's a woman driving, and her husband was the passenger. Crashed the car. The husband gets out of the car and is telling the woman, "You will be alive," and he's struggling to keep her alive and awake, like not letting her fall asleep because she needs to be there for their child. And at the end, you realize why he's so adamant about keeping her awake. And it's again, it was beautifully done. I don't want to give away too much in case any of you fine folks decide to purchase this book. I'm going to be leaving a link for it in the description below. So I don't want to give away too much of that one, but it was very clever. It had a good twist at the end, and I think you folks will enjoy it. Now, I wrote down some honorable mentions. The first one I wrote down I wrote it down because it was just so unique. It's called Flowers of the Confederacy by Dennis Doty. He's another guy. I'm involved with a lot of writers groups with him online, and he's a wonderful writer. I never read anything by him until this, and I think he's pretty darn good, and that's why it deserves an honorable mention, because even though it's not exactly my forte, he writes westerns, which is why I've never read him before, but this one, it was really good. So I think I might have to check him out. He's been in a few Western magazines. He writes some Western novels. I might pick up one of the magazines because, again, Western isn't one of the genres I enjoy. But to just go through something real quick that's just a short story, I can handle that. And he did a good job, so I wanted to mention Dennis Doty real quick, Flowers of the Confederacy. Another one was by William Thatch. It was called The Ninth Step. Now, this one stood out to me because the main character was an alcoholic, and he was struggling with the ninth step. It stood out to me because the way he described what the character was going through with his alcohol addiction, just got out of prison for a car accident that he caused with his drinking, and he was struggling not to pick up a drink again. And it just resonated with me because I quit drinking over 13 years ago, and it was very difficult, and I remember going through the same struggles that this particular character was going through in the story, The Ninth Step. So that resonated with me. It was written well. It wasn't one of my favorite stories in the book, but because of what I've already gone through personally, that's why I think it resonated with me so much. So, nice job, William Thatch. The third honorable mention is called Molly. So, it was written by Joe Sutera, and it was another one of these unique ones. It was about a homeless woman, and she goes to this restaurant frequently. She saves her money, panhandles, saves her cans, and she saves her money, and she likes to go to this restaurant once in a while. And she's welcome in there, even though she's a homeless person, because the people that own the restaurant and work in the restaurant, they know her very well, and they understand her predicament, and she's not one of these drug-addicted or alcoholic people living on the streets. She's just someone that needs a break in life. So, he did a very good job, this writer, Joe Sutera, and I just really wanted to mention it because it was clever, it was unique, and I live close to Portland, Maine, about an hour away, and I go down there a lot, and I see a lot of people with homeless signs, looking for help, pushing around the carts, and sometimes you wonder about their lives. Well, this story, Molly, it kind of gave me a little bit of a look into their lives. Now, I also wrote down my favorite story. My favorite story is called If Only. It was written by Elizabeth Joyce, and it wasn't my favorite story because the story itself was so magnificent or had a great ending, a great hook. It was my favorite story because she just wrote so beautifully. It was short too. It was only a couple pages, but it was so beautifully written that that's what I look for in writing. You can tell an average story, and if it's written well enough, I am just in it, and it makes me feel. And that's what I remember when I look back 5-10 years later. If I think of a book, I generally don't remember the story. I remember the way the story made me feel, and this story made me feel quite a bit. And I know years down the road, I'm still going to remember it. So again, it was called If Only by Elizabeth Joyce, and I even wrote down a couple passages because I was so impressed by Elizabeth's writing, and I want to share them with you folks. The first passage goes as thus. Tears streaked down her face like fresh rolling rain. Oh, sorry, let me start that over. Tears streaked down her face like fresh rain rolling down a long, unwashed window, leaving trails in the grime. So, one thing that I've noticed about independent writers is if you go on Amazon, you can open up the look inside section on any one of these books, and for the most part, you're going to see an agent slush pile. Just pick out 10 of them, and you're probably going to find around 9 books that were shot down by agents, and you can see why immediately. There's no hook. You just don't get pulled in right away. And mostly the biggest problem I have with independent writers is they don't understand the concept of show not tell yet. So they're releasing their work a little too early, and it's terrible. It's terrible because now it's out there and they can't take it back. This person, you notice she doesn't say she was standing outside crying. No, she gave you a full visual that pulled you into the story, and I loved it. So that brings you to the second passage. Watch. She doesn't tell you. She doesn't tell you what's going on. She shows you what's going on. She sank to the ground, dry grass scratching at her bare skin. Straggling hairs, fallen loose from her ponytail, waved in the radiating heat as ashes danced like fireflies in the night sky. You can see everything. You can just see the whole scene. She doesn't say the word felt. She felt the grass on her bare skin. She doesn't say her ponytail came loose and then she felt the stray strands in front of her face, or she saw the ashes. No, she just tells everything. She just tells you everything by using the character's point of view and describing it. So it was just well done, and I that was why it was my favorite story, because I was actually really into it. And I also wanted to mention the editor stories. I really like them too, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention Denise Shepard's story Static and Intruder by Jensen Reed. They're both very good stories, but I'm going to keep this short. I'm about 10 minutes right now for this quick review, and it'll be over 10 minutes because of the cannabis we discussed earlier, but I just wanted to remind you guys that you could have checked into any book review video. For some reason you decided to tune into mine. I love you for it. Please keep an eye out for At Death's Door by Pixie Forest Publishing. Again, I will be leaving a link for that in the description below. And if you think that I'm kind of cool, you want to give me a shot, I have a novella being released. It's called Echoes of Yesterday. It's being released in the Love Askew romance, contemporary romance box set released by Askew Publishing, Rhetoric Askew Publishing. And that is available for pre-order right now. 30 plus books. It's novels and novellas for only 99 cents. So hey, if you like romance, you like contemporary fiction, give it a shot. It's only 99 cents. Even if you only like one book, it's worth it. It's 5 cents a book. All right, everybody. Thank you again for tuning in. You have a wonderful day.